Dobro večer. Ве молам.
Good evening, everyone. Can you just test before we start? Are you able to hear the translation? Just checking, can you hear the interpreter speaking in his microphone?
That don't need earphones. That's great. Добро, може да почнеме. Ви благодарам што сте.
Okay, I think that we can start. Thank you being here on the 13th edition of this International Literature Festival Proza Balkan and the 12th edition of Skopje Fellowship Program. This event is a traditional one, and this year our dear friend and partner, a regular moderator I should add, one of the best Macedonian writers, not only from his generation, but also beyond, Mr. Vladimir Jankovski will be moderator tonight. The topic that he set out tonight is called Wars, Artificial Intelligence and Literature. It is quite extensive topic and quite trending one. When we are talking about the artificial intelligence, I should say that something that, or one of the most present thinkers about artificial intelligence at the moment is Mr. Yuval Noah Harari, for which we know that by thinking about this artificial intelligence, he is mentioning its advantages and disadvantages, and he's also giving this a well-known example of his about the parallel between inventing the printing machine for the first time and the artificial intelligence. These two events are of essential importance and relevance of how the humanity has changed from certain aspect, but once we are comparing them, the invention of the printing machine, which can print 1 million copies, 5 million copies of the book, and which has contributed towards making the literature more popular, etc., etc., that revolutionary machine is nothing compared to the artificial intelligence. And what is the difference? The difference is that the artificial intelligence can actually create by itself, while the printing machine is unable to do that. So in this particular case, we're talking about an intelligent entity that is strongly developing and whose impact we can, or maybe we cannot fully predict how it is going to develop in the future. Therefore, from that aspect, there are a number of ideas and thoughts about both positive and negative aspects about this. The positive aspect that it is definitely helping. It is revolutionizing our way of life. For example, at the moment, we don't know whether things that I am talking, whether that I have requested full assistance or partial assistance from the artificial intelligence, or I have not requested such assistance. We will see at the end which one of those was the case. But at the same time, we are also facing many moral dilemmas that come out of the development of the artificial intelligence from a number of different aspects. And one of them, being in the focus of our attention at the moment, is, for example, the morality in using artificial intelligence when creating something, because the artificial intelligence can also be a creator or author. And here we have the creation done by the humans and the creation done by the artificial intelligence. We don't know at the moment up to which extent the artificial intelligence will be developing, and how much of those moral dilemmas that we have at the moment, how they're going to develop further. And this is not the only aspect, these moral dilemmas, but we can also conclude that the artificial intelligence can also be very dangerous from other aspects, which are bringing us to the second part of the current topic, which is the wars. When speaking about wars, myself, I mean, during today and also right now, I'm going to emphasize that we have with us our dear friend, Mr. Ivan Fedechko from Ukraine, who is coming from a country which is at the moment caught in the winds of war, and all of us in the circle, in our circle of publishers, once we see a couple of his colleagues coming from Ukraine and how they're still able to work and how much they try in such a brutal environment to sustain to what they have and even make it stronger. And sometimes they even give us some positive feedback because they are showing their persistence. So I'm happy to have Ivan here. Ivan, thank you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to come. And also, speaking of wars, we can also speak about one very subtle aspect. Myself, in some of my works, I prefer merging philosophy, the process, and also other media. Usually it is the film. So while I'm thinking about all of that, maybe this is the proof that something that I'm saying I did not did with AI. So because you need to keep on asking AI so many times until you reach a certain comparative wholeness of the particular idea. So here I'm also going to mention, and I would go back actually to the very beginnings, basically some radical path in the past, and to the thought said by Heraclitus, which is one of the most prominent one, which says the war is father of everything, king of everything. From that thought, we can talk only alone about that thought alone a whole night, because there could be millions of interpretations of that one thought said by Heraclitus. And I related that thought with a movie which I was watching recently, one of my more favorite ones, newer movies, Sharing the Benches from Ivan Sharing. I don't know if you have seen that movie. If you have seen it, you know that in the background of that movie, what happens is that all the time there is a huge war being waged in the background with shooting, cannons and everything. But in the focus of that movie is mainly something that I call a small war. It is a war that is created out of abandoning, and a war that is tacitly present within each of us. Vladimir, please continue. Dejan, thank you really for this introduction in which you mentioned the most important aspects that I wanted to share as a context and introduction in this discussion. So what remains to us is to focus more on the direct dialogue with all our distinguished guests present here. I would like to kick off with this year's winner, Mr. Ewald Flisser, and my question would be something about what Dejan mentioned. Recently, we've been witnessing that more and more the artificial intelligence is used in creating content. Using artificial intelligence, journalist texts are written, videos, music, lyrics, posts for the social media, even marketing campaigns. And assisted by the artificial intelligence, texts are being created that enter into the domain of something that we are interested in, and that is the literature. For some of that content, as Dejan mentioned, it is clear for the versatile reader that have been created with artificial intelligence, but for the others or other readers, this will not be so obvious. So the subtle difference is also existing in terms of the relevant reader or the relevant individual who is doing the perception of this content. For the beginning, Mr. Klisser, what do you think about the role of the artificial intelligence in creating book texts compared to the current situation? Like, for example, can it create a real and quality literature as an artificial intelligence? Yes.
I thank you for your introduction, but because there was no English translation, I managed to learn the basics of Macedonian by listening to you. And also, your question, I'm afraid I didn't understand, but I got it by email. I hope it's still the same.
Yes, more or less it's the same.
The same. Now, I'm a writer, so I will avoid talking about war and stuff like that, because when I start with that, we will be sitting here for 2 days. So I shall avoid that. But artificial intelligence, is this being translated?
Yes, yes.
Artificial intelligence as such, considering that about 80% of the population is not very intelligent, the idea of developing artificial intelligence is not bad. It's a very good idea. Unfortunately, it can be misused. It can be used for evil purposes as well. So the question is how to avoid that. I rather fear that it will be very difficult to avoid it. Now, I first came upon Chat GPT some years ago, and I was interested to know what it's, I wanted to get my biography. And I was surprised to learn that I am the leading Slovenian industrialist. So after that, I kept away from this for quite some time. And then I wanted to test it. And I translated a small part of my prose, and was surprised to discover that the sentences, although correct, are very monotonous, that the choice of words is very poor, and that there is no soul behind it. Then I tried to translate one of my plays with the help of Chat GPT already not so long ago, when the thing has already developed. And what did I discover? All my characters speak the same language. Now, how is that possible? I mean, every one of them has their own personal history. They use their own words, but in my script, but in the translation by Chat GPT, they all speak the same language as they will one character. I may have said that yesterday, translating a play, Slovenian play, into English, you have to bear in mind that in certain situations, the English use different phrases and different words than Slovenians. That's why some friends of mine, when they compared the two, the English script and the Slovenian original, they said, "You are a very bad translator," because in English they say something completely different. But that's, you see, artificial intelligence cannot help you. It will remain, it is good for translating factual texts. If you forget the fact that it is language-wise not very innovative, but it'll just be using some very often words that you don't even understand. But now I hear that Amazon has had to reduce the number of books written by artificial intelligence to 3 per person per day. Can you believe that? And of course, people buy them and they read them, but they are taking away space for books written by living people, by writers like myself, who have something to say because they feel the world, the events that are happening, and they tell the story the way it has been told for 3,000 years, from the heart, from the mind, not word for word taken from this and that and so on. So although I think it's useful, it frightens me. It frightens me as a writer, as a person. I believe it will do untold damage to humanity, but I don't know how we can fight against it.
Евалд, ви благодарам. Практично
Thank you, Evald. You practically opened up some very important and relevant questions related to this topic. So I'm looking forward that in the following flow of the discussion, we will have the possibility to additionally open and discuss those questions. So I would like to thank you for giving a very nice overview of some of the most important and essential issues which we are facing today when it comes to the artificial intelligence, which is dealing with creating textual context. Although we know, all of us know about this, but we have to say that the umbrella term artificial intelligence refers to thousands and thousands of all sorts of different tools. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of tools that are dealing only with creation of text. Then we have dozens of tools that are dealing with translation. Then also hundreds and hundreds of tools that are dealing with visual content, pictures, images, videos, etc. But when we are talking about artificial intelligence, it is understood that what we mean, that is this entire complex of different tools that altogether encompass the same concept of artificial intelligence. Lydia, in your works and also in your public appearances, such as interviews, texts, addresses, very often you put a strong emphasis on protecting the rights of the subdued people. So do you think that your behavior, both as writer and as an intellectual, means raising the voice on behalf of those who are unable to speak for themselves, of those who are less privileged position? What do you think, whether the modern text in which the text, especially their media content, is created using artificial intelligence in a situation of post-truth and in a time when the most influential world politician can say one thing today and tomorrow something totally different, and in 3 days can say I didn't say neither of those two. It's a total galliamatis of everything that what is truth and something that can be relevantly spoken word. Do you think that the content created by artificial intelligence, and I'm mainly referring to media content, can be used more in a sense of improving the situation of those who are non-privileged, who are subdued, who are marginalized? And we know situations, people who are murdered at the moment in the world? Or you think that this polarization in terms of some radical policies will move more towards in favor of using more and more of these tools, which in turn will create greater and greater polarization, which will in turn create situation where those who are already powerful will have even greater power, and those who are less privileged to become even more less privileged? Well, thank you for this complex question. It is very difficult to give an answer to this. It is a question, as we say, as a two-edged sword. we can say both are both good and bad. My attitude towards the artificial intelligence is still on a very low level, I have to say. In other words, I still haven't faced the existence with the artificial intelligence on some very personal way or rapport. But I have to admit at the same time that my daughter, who is 18, she did a wonderful experiment with that, which means my most recent manuscript, which was a novel for children and youth, she attached it. How is that called? I don't know the terminology. I think that she put it into this system of artificial intelligence, and what she got was a feedback of several pages of what is said in the manuscript, even a valorization of the entire manuscript. What kind of manuscript are we talking about? What does it say about the society, about the life, about the people, etc.? So a complex text, which if I wouldn't know that this was written by the artificial intelligence, I would say that this was created by a very good reviewer, a very good critic, a person who knows the things, a person who read many books, person who is putting my novel in all sorts of different contexts. So this is the only so far positive experience that I had with the artificial intelligence. But essentially, I think that it is making things more relative, up to that extent that we will not know morally what is good and what is bad. And in that, all this thing of information and fake news. Speaking of fake news, basically they were the beginning of announcing the artificial intelligence. Back then we didn't talk that much about artificial intelligence, as we were talking about simply about fake news as such. But those fake news were still created by someone, by some system created by people, but still people who have in their heads certain system. So right now we are living in a social order, in let's say in a world in which everything is known to us, everything is close to us, we understand everything, we know everywhere, everything, what is happening, what war is waged where, and what is happening, and we can be compassionate about it. But along with us, there are people who are living together with us. As it was said very nice, 80% of the people in the world are stupid people. So I couldn't understand that until I became a Facebook member, until I opened a Facebook profile, and I was personally believing that in the world there are much more good than bad people, much more smart than stupid people. But Facebook opened up my eyes that practically around us we are surrounded by many both bad and stupid people. So something that we've been hearing from the elder that the older people are wise and virtuous, that is not true at all. In life and in my experience, I have encountered people who are much older than I am, but simply put, they have nothing to share with us. They have nothing to leave for us for the future. So I still think, but still believe that the world belongs to the young people, and I support it. What you are saying that the truth as such, well, we live in a world of post-truth, which means that we don't know what truth is. Someone even intentionally refused to believe in truth. It is horrible when, for example, the Israeli ambassador in Macedonia comes out with a text in the Nova Macedonia daily newspaper in which she says that what happens in Gaza is essentially a media scream or media lie, that it is not as it is portrayed in the media. What really happens in Gaza? Well, I don't know. We all know very well what's going on in Gaza, but the Israeli ambassador in Macedonia thinks that this is not the case. Does she have maybe some other information, and in which world she lives in? I don't understand. Let alone Ukraine. Here we have people from Ukraine that all these years I speak Russian, and very often when the Ukraine war started, I wanted to listen to Russian radio to hear what do Russian media say about that. And I heard what we, from a different perspective, know. And that is that it is not true that what they say. But you have people which can be brainwashed very easily. And in that sense, artificial intelligence is a beautiful tool for brainwashing. But I see young people from a different aspect. I see my daughter, her generation, who is using the artificial intelligence in a very practical manner for some things. For example, to help her for school, to do research, etc. So in that sense, I look at it as a good tool, as a benevolent tool that will help. But now we're coming to the issue of literature. 2 years ago, at the festival Vilenice, which is taking place in Slovenia every year, the organizer did a very nice experiment there. On the stage, there were poets, real people, poets, living people, living human beings of flesh and blood, who were reading their poems, but they were also reading poems created by artificial intelligence. So the audience was supposed to guess which was written by the human being and which one by artificial intelligence. Believe me, the audience made a very wrong choice, which means that the artificial intelligence is so tuned and so perfect that even that literature, that even us, we will not be able to discern between the true or fake songs or texts or poems and similar. Well, I don't know. I still want to keep my attitude towards artificial intelligence still in some analogous world in which it is unable to penetrate. But I think I will see how long will I be able to resist it. Thank you, Lydia, for this talk. It was very nice what you just said, very nicely added to what I wanted to ask Hanna Cornetti here, because you're very often mentioning this generational gap. And from all of us sitting here on this table, I think that we all belong. I mean, we have been born in the analogous world, and I think Hanna is the only one who was born in the digital world. And now this inspired me to ask you a question, whether these questions for which we're talking about, this relationship with the artificial intelligence, literature, post-truth, content creation, fake information, more or less content that can be noticed that are fake as such, is it possible to look at that as a kind of a generational issue? You are a writer that belongs to the generation that has always been living in the digital world, and maybe because of that, the new technologies and the artificial intelligence, the screen, the mobile phone, you find all those things more natural to you when it comes to impact on literature compared to writers who maybe belong to some different generation. So in this context, what is your viewpoint on the use of the artificial intelligence in creating text, also the ethical aspects of using the AI, the risks related to such content creation? Or maybe you think it's just one of many tools out there that have been invented in the course of the human civilization that can be used in our context, even for setting the path of the literature. I just need the mic. Thank you. This question, whether it's a problem, the fact that the artificial intelligence can write something better than a human, I find it totally relevant. I think that the right question that should be asked is why we would be writing books with artificial intelligence. All of us, we are all creators, even the smart people, the stupid people, people who are here, people that are not here. And when you're especially, someone enjoys cooking, others enjoy music, others also enjoy writing. I don't know why you would hand over your work to someone else. Even if you write the most perfect book, even if the AI writes the most perfect book, what does that mean to me? Because still, when we are writing, we are at the same time communicating. And I see this as a kind of a making a machine that will eat instead of you. I mean, why would I do that? If I'm enjoying that already, why would I outsource it to someone, to something else? And I also think on this, my other second book for children, I have a character called a Nutcracker. It's a girl. And I developed that character with a background, complicated family relationships. She's always stubborn. Then she was listening to this music. Then she becomes friends with the main characters. And all this started from the fact that I wanted to create a character that there is a person called character called Nutcracker, and why nobody can guess why was she called Nutcracker. Maybe she was going to ballet or something. It turns out that she is dealing with bullies by kicking them between the legs, and this is something that a stupidity or some interesting thing I wanted to communicate. And this is something, I mean, you can give a very precise prompts. How do you call it? Prompts, instructions to the artificial intelligence to help you, but I don't see why. And one another thing I should mention, I was reading that the streaming platforms have become very excited. Now you will just type in what kind of movie would you like to watch, and it's going to create one for you. I don't know why would such create it for you, because we communicate with all these forms. We need to have, what is necessary is an interpersonal conflict, disagreement with the content we are consuming. So the artificial intelligence, as it is right now in the moment, it is not a sci-fi thing, but it is very well trained algorithm. And now people are using that. I don't know if you're following this topic, but as a psychologist, psychologists are using more and more ChatGPT, and they are entering into alarming holes, because you're talking with a mirror that is continuously talking to you. Yes, you're right, you're the hero of this story, etc. And you're confining yourself within an echo chamber with yourself. We are all in an echo chamber, but to be the only person in your echo chamber, well, I think that's the most dangerous thing for a human brain. And how one falls apart without being challenged by something coming from outside. And as a development in the technology, for example, very often they compare it with the Luddites, with the printing press. One of those things is amassing the culture or making it more popular. And the other thing, in the context of literature, it does not help reaching more people, but it can twist things in a negative way. But as a tool, as Lydia mentioned before me, as a tool, it can give you much more simple way answer from Google, because it is reading the content there and how much time it takes for the egg to boil in order to have a middle or poached egg or middle boiled and similar. And I have also used it, ChatGPT, for some preliminary translations of my texts, so I can show it to the publishers, by, of course, always by editing. And once I asked ChatGPT about to give me feedback for a story, and partially it had good points. It told me that you need to better build the tension better, which is true. But on the other hand, for some comments, I was feeling like I was reading someone else's story and not my story. So still, as the question was, there are channels and ways in which this can be a useful tool. And also, for example, for media content, news, for example. The world is as such, everything is about instant gratification, instant satisfaction, instantly receiving answers. I mean, I don't want to read 2 pages in order to find out what happened. I don't care the attitude of the journalist. As long as we are consuming and writing such content, yes, that can be done by a machine. But while we are looking for well-written text who was well-researched in journalism, for example, with good sources, with a unique point of view, when it comes to that, this is not something that can be easily done by a machine. Again, my point is, why would we? And as a member of the newer generation, yeah, when I was born, there were no phones, but I can say that the telephones will be as the cocaine was 100 years ago. They are totally unregulated. They are given to children. In the past, as they were using very strong drugs such as cocaine and heroin in order to cure psychosis or headaches or migraines or similar. Now they are totally prohibited. Using of smartphones is missing a proper regulation. The same goes for artificial intelligence. In very few countries, this is present. And the main problem are the copyrights. Where do these algorithms pull out the information from? And nobody is neither financially compensated, neither referenced and similar. So I think that everything that's new becomes ultra available and the laws are very, very late. And the same goes for the digital literature, for the young people, and also for us middle-aged, and also for the older people, more senior people. Okay, I think I talked enough. But sorry, before I finish, just one more thing. I need to add this. There is this entire thing that you can type in what kind of movie would you like to watch, and it's going to create a movie for you. It's a symptom of a time in which we see the art in a wider sense as a commodity. And artificial intelligence, I don't know how dangerous by itself is. There was a very interesting text which is using the Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy as an example. I don't know if you have, if you've been reading Paranoid Android. He's always frustrated, deprived, because he cannot satisfy the people. He cannot make the tea as they like it to be, because he doesn't understand that they would like to have hot and not warm tea. So it's not more than being afraid that the machines will substitute us, but instead the machines will never be able to emulate us or satisfy us, because we are different organisms. So I think it's much more important to educate the people to evaluate what they can do by themselves and how usefully can they take advantage of these tools, instead of substituting entirely our labor, because ultimately there will be nobody to earn and also nobody to spend, and this would mean fall of capitalism. But let's focus on things that we can do within all that in a bigger picture. Thank you, Hannah, for this quite inspiring speech. I have to say, not only an answer to the question, but you opened up different aspects. Hannah mentioned why would you do this, and why would someone else write instead of us? And on the social media, there is a commercial which says, while you are reading your morning coffee, your new book is already done. So, and prepared. So what do you think in the context of artificial intelligence? On one hand, we have the hyperproduction, because there is a realistic possibility and danger for hyperproduction of books, texts, etc. If one book can be created in the time while you are enjoying your morning coffee. And does this mean that this is a kind of a threat for the literature language, for all those things? Because most of these textual models work on the way that they are using the existing texts and they are putting them into certain algorithm. Or do you think that with these textual models, it is possible to create something that did not exist earlier, to create something that is a book experiment? I don't know, like Joyce Ullis creates something of not being able to think about that, and many other writers were creating something up to the extent that the horizon up until then of the literature of the writers was unaware that something like that can exist. So can it not only create on the basis of existing models and to endlessly reproduce something, because we live in times of endless reproduction of content which is endlessly reproducing the same meaning?
Why would anyone want to replicate or create something in the style of Joyce, given that no one in their right mind today reads Joyce? I mean, very much like Hannah just said, why would artificial intelligence, for God's sake, want to do anything like this? So, sorry, I just had to intervene here. So finish your question, please.
Не, тоа ми беше
Okay.
прашањето. Не, прашање.
Yeah, okay. So my question was about Joyce was internal creation or shaping of literature that doesn't exist as a horizon of expectations of a particular time period and social situation in that context.
Just that I will be using English tonight, and I'm doing it for the sake of my dear and wonderful colleague, fellow interpreter sitting there in the booth, because I know that Bulgarian into English, it's a bit too much for him. So we agreed tonight that I would try to show a bit more understanding. So this, I've been smiling and laughing a lot while I was, especially when I was listening to Hannah, because I loved very, very much your line of reasoning. And I loved it because the seriousness of this conversation about artificial intelligence is something that totally escapes me. I don't really understand it, because it is a conversation about fear, and it is a conversation about our own fear as human beings who absolutely have no idea what this thing that we very metaphorically have come to call artificial intelligence, what is it about? What is in there? Even people who have, the developers who make it, those who train it, they just say, we know how to feed it the cues and the lines and everything it needs to get going. We know what we can suspect what might possibly come out at the other end, but about the in-between, we don't know anything. So this type of discussion to me would be something like the earth is flat and it is the center of the universe, and there is the earth and the moon and the sun and nothing else, and whoever suspects that this might not be the case is labeled a heretic and burned on the stake, because this is how the world is supposed to be, period. Why? Because it is a world in which we feel comfortable, which somehow comforts us in our fears, and we're glad because we live in a world that we know so very well. And this is not true. I mean, the least to say. So we're again in a situation when we're dealing with something that we know nothing about. We kind of pride ourselves in claiming that we have created it. We have not created it. I'm sorry, but we haven't. We have perhaps been conducive to its emergence, but this is at the most. And we want to control it. We want to make it our slave. And if we don't succeed in doing this, and perhaps we won't, because intellectually it is far more superior than us, then we're scared then we start making claims, we start screaming and shouting, we start thinking that this artificial thing would be immoral. The only ones who are immoral in this human world is we. Not artificial intelligence, not other organic life, no one else but we. First of all, morality is a human category. Why on earth would artificial intelligence per se care about human morality? And all our fears, at least from what I heard until now, so far, have to do with what a human agent could possibly cause to another human agent using a kind of technology, which we all suspect is not exactly a technology, but we, at this very early level of its development, this is the only way for us to approach it. So by using this technology, one human being can harm another human being, or millions or billions or zillions of human beings. So whose fault is this going to be? Artificial intelligence? Really, it will be our fault. It will be the fault of the human agent, whose morality or immorality is then at stake. Artificial intelligence doesn't have morality. Most probably it will never acquire one simply because it doesn't need it. So back to the big question, the big topic about war, artificial intelligence, and literature. To me, the only really scary and terrible and uncontrollable thing in this line of terms is war. And war is an entirely human creation, which tells us a lot about us. It tells us everything that we need to know. Artificial intelligence, literature, whether artificial intelligence will be so intelligent that one day probably it will have nothing better to do but sit down and write human books for human readers. It beats me, really, why it should do that, but who knows? But these are not our problems. Our main problem right now is the war. And the war, I mean, not only the war in Ukraine, not the war in Gaza, the war as such, because we live in a world in which we were made to believe that all wars had been, I don't know, eliminated once and for all, and we were made to believe it because we were brainwashed for many reasons, in many ways, and we only recently woke up to the realization that war has obviously been a very natural mode of existence for the entire humankind. And this is very bad news. We have never been out of the war. We have never stopped creating wars, not only because we can't live otherwise. Obviously, this is one reason, but the other reason, it is not even about good and bad people. It has a very strong economic rationale. War is about business. It is about the biggest possible business, government business, the global industry of warfare, of the manufacturing of the military complex, which has turned out to be the only way out of economic crisis, out of poverty at the governmental level, out of depression, economic depression. I mean, this is how things worked in World War II. This is why the US joined World War II, not because it wanted to help the world. It was because of the Great Depression that they had, and it worked very well for them. And not only the United States, no one who can afford to wage war, not even one country has ever refrained from doing so, ever since. So to me, this is the number one topic. To me, this is the unstoppable thing. And everything else about artificial intelligence and literature, and whether artificial intelligence can write better poems, whether it will have the same feelings as a human poet, really, to me, this is very, very, very small, the way things stand now. And I think, back to literature, the third part of the question, I think that this is what literature, if it wants to remain relevant, if it wants to continue to be so closely linked to the human condition, should learn how to do. It's not about we as human beings learning how to live in this terribly rotten world that we have created ourselves, in this nightmarish world, but it is also about everything else that we claim to be and to have been our top achievement, the top achievement of the human spirit, of the human mind, whether all these things will survive in the world that we have created. And this is entirely up to us. It is our own decision. And no one, I think, can be exempt from responsibility on this.
Thank you, Elena, for thank you for deconstructing this entire discussion. I think that we can all go home now. Nebojša, in what way do you think, through in the course of history, was helping to bring about the human suffering, to instigate one of the most noble human feelings, which is the empathy? Okay, what Lydia mentioned, it is not important for us to be able to discern what was written by artificial intelligence or not, but what matters is to ask who we are and what is our essence. And we will be able to do that if you shake my hand, then we will have the feeling. And now pay attention to this. I asked the artificial intelligence, what do you think about our question? Before this, I asked the artificial intelligence, this is what the AI says. This question is imposed as a struggling diagnosis of the current times. Wars, AI, and literature sounds like a title of some apocryphal essays of Orwell, where the questions are asked not for getting the answers, but to measure the depth of our misunderstanding with the world. Even the artificial intelligence says that we have a disagreement here, and it's a question of personality. We immediately have a disagreement with AI. Is this a Faust-like question? In my opinion, war is the question of existences. I come from Serbia, you know what we have been through, and it was difficult for us to see all those things that are flying above us, and we were unable to see who are those that are flying above us. And this is where the story ends, when we are describing what is us and what's there. And it is our experience, not the artificial intelligence. And this empathy thing, as I said yesterday, I'm working in the legacy Milic of Machva. He was used to be a great artist who back in the 90s painted a picture of Athos gardens of Hilander fires. And after 10 to 15 years, Athos was actually really happened fire. So many artists are ahead of their time. Like, for example, like Milic of Mače. He was writing about the stricken bridge on the Nerva River, which was actually bombed 10 years afterwards. And some 7 or 8 days ago, before the war in Gaza, I also published something that was about that. We are all a bit of prophets, and we don't need the artificial intelligence about that. And when this is a question about personality and individuality, it is the issue of unity God and nature. It is not artificial intelligence. Even artificial intelligence is a continuation of what we are. And the artificial intelligence, I think, without the experience and without a soul and without this paper mirror that is here for us, we will be able to enjoy the imperfection of art. The art is the best only if it is not fully spoken. Likewise, the song. Contrary to that, a human would be just an empty space. And that is something that we need, and that is something that I would say, and that is how I'm going to respond to the artificial intelligence very briefly. Thank you, Nebojša, for these inspiring thoughts. Jana, you're one of the active participants. You're participating in our project, our small library aimed at promoting the culture of reading amongst the young people. I'm sure that when it comes to the younger people, there is no more difference between the new technologies, the screen, and their body. They experience the screen as a extension of their fingers, of their body, as something that comes naturally to them. We still have this odd privilege to be able to tell the difference between us and the technology that we are using. So do you think that practically the artificial intelligence and the content that can help to convey with its medium can help in some way with the young generations to create a wish for text, or this will be more like this stereotypical thinking that they are basically considered a threat to the culture of reading and to the threat for a critical attitude towards the presented content and reduction or diminishing of the reading habits, and on the other hand increasing the habits of consuming content?
Analog generation, so maybe I'm wrong, but I think they are a big threat, if not already a tragedy, because even when I'm working on computer and I'm reading text on computer, and then you see there is 3 emails coming, and I remember something to write into another application and things like that. So even my concentration and my reading is disrupted, and I can't really continue like that. So let alone these young people who, there is so much, these screens, this is such a sparkling thing, and there is so many games, and reading is actually a work. This is not pleasure. You need to learn, you need to read, you need to understand things. So why would you struggle if there is, I don't know, computer games, and it's much easier to do this? So I think that children, some of them were once left to the street, and now most of the children are left to the screens. And we were talking before that there is only 20% clever people. I don't know, maybe. But if this is true, how these 20% of people will grow now for the next generation? They will not need to read, they will not need to, you will just type in the computer and you will get all the answers. So as Dan said yesterday, and I agree, let's enjoy while we still can, and maybe we are the last generation, events like this. And the next generation will probably have another events, they will do another things. But on the other hand, maybe if there would be people now with us from the 1930s, for example, probably we also, we use Google. We use Google to find things around. We don't need maps anymore and things like that. So we are already different, and they will be different in different ways, probably. So I don't know. I really don't know, but let's enjoy this moment now.
Нека свири музиката, нека читањето.
Yeah, I imagine like the Titanic music. Okay, would like to thank you for your talk. I would like to invite the audience, if they would like to ask something or comment, please feel free. Hello, my name is Valentin Neshovsky. I want to congratulate the organizer for this excellent topic, but I would like to criticize the organizer for not dedicating a 10-day conference necessary to just elaborate about these topics and let alone go deeper into these topics. I am struck by this topic because in my career I used to be a military reporter from this region as a journalist, because I am also a president of a think tank organization which deals with artificial intelligence. It is called hi, like saying us hello. And third, that I'm a writer. I wrote 3 books. I write sci-fi, and the second book has a title or subtitle, The Last Thought in the Universe, and the subtitle is Apocalypse. And I really find it sad that the subtitle was not Armageddon instead. And I'll explain later why. But I want to address a myth that exists in the society, and I can see the same thing here, and that is that the AI will never exceed the human abilities. I'm coughing, it's because of the cigarettes. That is because I am sad of the human situation in the world at the moment. So the AI, as you nicely ascertained, is in infancy. I am following the top artists, starting from Jeffrey Hinton, who is called the father of artificial intelligence, to Stephen Wolfram, Liza Irakovsky, Harare, etc. And all of them are warning us that we are one step before the general art AI. At the moment, AI is on the PhD level. In 1 year from now, or maybe 2 years from now, the most pessimistic prognosis will have the general AI, which means it is going to possess all human abilities. They are going even that far by saying, this is pessimistic, that in 10 years we're going to have super AI, and that is going to be hundreds of thousands of times smarter than the human beings. The author of Jeffrey Hinton says, right now, AI reasons, thinks, plans, and probably it does have a soul, and he's warning us about this. So that's why in the literature, one can make a parallel, which I do it in my books, which are in general parallel. I mean, we're positive, there will be a positive outcome for the humanity because there are neural networks. And our possibilities are neural networks. The thoughts happen when an impulse is fired between 2 neurons. The same goes for the AI up to some extent, although you're right that the authors themselves don't know what's going on inside, and that makes it even more dangerous. So in the area of literature, I can say that we need to fight, and that's why I have established this think tank for the purpose of fighting for humane and ethical implementation of the AI. Mainly ethical and moral also. But as you said, as the Mrs. Alexieva said, the humans are the agents. It will be our guilt if we do not achieve what we want. That's why I mentioned Armageddon and Apocalypse, because in the Greek mythology, Apocalypse is the end, and Armageddon, according to the Jewish mythology, is the actual struggle. The actual struggle to reach first, to find the salvation. Excuse me for this very long comment, but I will close by asking a question to everyone. feel free to say whoever you want to answer the. Do you think are we currently in an Armageddon phase or still in in apocalypse phase that we really need to fight instead of our national governments to raise this issue, to reach their inability and to introduce laws for humane and ethical use of the artificial intelligence, because the so-called open systems at the moment, some kid in Pittsburgh or in Kuala Lumpur can create biological agent that could murder everyone on the planet. It's a warning that is mentioned by Harare, Eliza, etc. Thank you for your attention. I apologize for being too long. Thank you, Valentin. I don't know. Maybe someone would like to answer the question or say something that Valentin mentioned.
If I may,
Да, секако повелете, Евалд.
I would think, having listened to so many insights and understandings of the problems that we are facing, I think we should be more afraid of human intelligence than of artificial intelligence. Why? Before coming here, I was watching CNN News. And Donald Trump said directly into the camera, "Of course, I hate my opponents. Of course, I am not going to do anything good for them." And he meant it seriously. Now, is artificial intelligence more dangerous than human intelligence in inverted commas reported on CNN? I think that we are past Armageddon, unfortunately.
Повелете?
Yes.
Yes, I think.
I don't know if I have a question or it's a comment, but what really is
Okay, question and comment.
concern me as a book industry, as a professional in a book industry, as a father, is the diversity, the ecosystem we created. I mean, if we started to get all our information from one resource, no matter it's wrong or right, but imagine that we get everything from one resource. Where is the diversity? Where is Diane personality, Rashant personality? I go to Egypt to learn something. I go to Macedonia to learn something else. So I think we are missing the journey. We always hear that the wisdom is always in the journey, but now we're getting the result immediately. So where is the journey? So this is what really worries me. And I would love to hear your opinion about it, whoever wants to comment. And the second one is about the war. And I prefer it to call it Palestinian war, not Gaza, because Gaza is a piece of Palestine. So let's not separate Gaza from West Bank or Gaza from Palestine. It's a whole city. Sorry, it's a whole country. It's one piece. So I would say, hopefully we start call it Palestine, not only Gaza.
Okay, thank you. Александра, ти сакаше да кажеш?
Alexandra, you wanted to say something?
Најпрво ви благодарам на сите за одлично.
Yes, I would like to thank you everyone for the very nice thoughts and talks. These topics that you covered concerned me as an author, as a journalist, as a translator, because the AI, as we all mentioned, is penetrating into all these areas. So my question to all the authors is with regards to writing. Do you think that we are now reaching a level in which we are self-censoring ourselves in the way we write in order to be easier to translate? Because as Mr. Klisser said, when the translation came from the AI of one of his works, all the characters were the same. And they were all talking the same language. So yeah, that's a danger that can also happen with a living translator, with a living human. But out of the wish to expand as a literature area and to be available to a number of different languages and to tell our experiences, and something that Hannah already mentioned in the interviews, we need to write in the languages in which we live. But what happens once we start writing so simply so that we can be easily be translated? Jana and Lydia were translating, and how can we as living authors can, at least with those languages with which we can communicate, to help the translators convey better those life messages? Lydia, will you want to say? The microphone is switched off. The microphone is switched off. The microphone? Now it's okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think it would be very pretentious when you are writing a song or novel to already think about how it is going to be translated. It is horrible for the literature, but I also believe that this is, yes, done by authors of trivial literature, authors who would like to be famous overnight, to be liked in an influencing type or YouTuber type or whatever. I do believe that there are such authors, but I'm also 100% that there is not a single such author sitting here. I think that every author who is appreciating himself or herself will never allow in the first place to create his work to fit the taste of some readers or because someone needs to translate it. The translation is just a result, an outcome of some work. If your work is good, maybe it is going to reach certain translators, maybe it will never reach other translators, but I don't believe that there is a person or authentic writer who is writing just to be translated. And in my opinion, there is no author who is writing to be read. We are writing because we have an inner urge to do that. Otherwise, we would be doing something else. But I don't believe that when I am writing a book, I also at the same time need to think that maybe, okay, this will not be liked by the readers, so let's write it in an easier way to make it more likable for them. And maybe this one will be more difficult for the translators, and here I'm going to use much more simple words in order to make it easier for translator, God forbid, from such literature. Now, Mr. Ewald, please.
Is it, yes, you hear me, yes.
It's on.
Now the mistake we are making is that when we talk about translation, we imagine that translation is just changing words from one language into another language, and there should be some sort of equivalence. When I lived in London and I started to write radio plays for the BBC, they said, well, you will have to work a little harder. And I said, fine, I will, but how? I need some money because I'm a poor student from Yugoslavia. And they said, okay, would you like to, we will give you a novel and we would like you to turn it into a radio play. So they gave me a novel which was full of dialogues. So I said, my God, this is very easy. So I just transcribed those dialogues and turned them into a radio play. And I was not very happy with their response. They said, you forgot one thing. You have transferred dialogues which were written for the eye into dialogues which must be written for the ear. Do it again. And I had to reinvent the dialogues. So the same problem we face with translation from one language to another. And when we come to stage plays, of course, now that is a problem of special kind. That is a problem that I will talk about next year when we meet again.
Уште едно прашање, еве.
We have room for one more question, please. Biljana?
Биljана па Аленка.
Не е прашање, повеќе е коментар.
It's a comment, it's not a question. I just wanted, maybe it will be kind of a conclusion. I think we are too afraid of the AI when, as Mr. Ewald said, there are much more scarier things we need to be afraid of. And I don't think it's an Armageddon. In the same way as we are teaching our children that they shouldn't be talking to strangers, likewise, we need to teach them that normally the AI is not something that should be a personal psychiatrist or a shrink or someone you need to unconditionally believe. We are learning that we need to reconsider everything. And in the same way, we teach our younger generations, they need to be critical and reconsider everything. So definitely we don't have to take it for granted, neither to think that, okay, the AI will be writing the books instead of us. No, but we as authors, as writers, we need to embrace the benefits provided to us by the AI. This example that Lydia mentioned with the review, I have tried it. It is really like that. It can analyze your entire text. And Hannah said that she was using it for analyzing her stories, especially in Macedonia, where we have no editors who will be able to actually do that and analyze our text, and we need feedback for that, because to be realistic, we don't have someone who will be able to tell us this is something what you're missing. So we need to be editors of ourselves. We need to research by ourselves. Of course, you will not accept everything what the AI is telling you. Half of it will be rubbish, but probably your first reader or your first reviewer, half of what they're going to say will have no linkage to what you wrote, and you will not accept it, but it will make you think. So the talk with the AI will make you think, make you research. I don't want to say how useful that tool is for research. It's incredible. It's an incredibly important tool for an author if he would like to make a research, and it cuts the time for you which you would otherwise lose if when there was no lose and where there was no Google, and Google is already obsolete, we were going to libraries, and how we were doing it. We had to talk with a number of different people, etc. It is very difficult for you to write if you are not writing about something which does not require big research. But if you're writing something that requires a very big research, then, well, Lydia was telling us what she was doing to make that book. Now, all those things, thanks to ChatGPT or some other AI, make it easier for us. They cut the time that you would otherwise lose for other things so that you can have more time for creativity. And I don't think that we will have to be afraid of that. On the contrary, we just need to embrace it, accept that we have to, that it can cut the time short that we would otherwise waste to stupid things, and use it for more creative things. I am very in favor of AI, I have to say. Now, that's why you're sitting opposite over there, says Hannah. Yeah, okay, my first question is for Lydia. We are in war, and in war you're taking sides. What would you recommend to the young people? Should they allow to know in which side, and later those who will be on the losing side will be put on the blacklist? This has been happening throughout the history many times. So how do you see the AI in this particular context? Because I have a lot of friends, Muslims, who went to Gaza, but there they've been told when they returned after 2 or 3 months afterwards, they said, we're living in a building and downstairs in the basement they're keeping arms, weapons, or we can see a kindergarten and they're in the also a lot of people from England, many businessmen gave money for erecting buildings, but those were instead redirected for weapons. So the artificial intelligence, I have it on my phone without even requesting for it. So do you think that we are already brainwashed in other sense? And do you think that, do you pay attention to know on which side you're on, or maybe you're playing some neutral role? And what do you recommend to the young people? I'm sorry, we will take just one question because we are really short with time. Microphone. Thank you. I think there is no neutral person. There is no neutral author, nor can I recommend something to the younger generations. Simply put, everyone needs to be what they think they want to be. They just need to observe very good around them, get acquainted with the world around them. They shouldn't be confined within themselves, but they should be open to the world and see what's going on out in the world. And in my literature, I expect no escapism, but facing the world in which we live in. Personally, I cannot write about flowers, gardens, or whatever, because even if I'm surrounded by them, I am more surrounded by the events that are happening somewhere far away from me, but they are happening in my time. I am a contemporary person with people living in Ukraine, living in Palestine, etc. So as an author, I think that I need to have my standpoint and I need to stand behind that standpoint, and I don't care whether I will put on some blacklist or whether I am going to be good for some government or bad for some government, etc. I think that every normal person should bear the responsibility and also the consequences, and I think that in that sense young people most definitely need to build their standpoints and they need to know what they want, they need to think. The young people were always the heralds of the revolutions. I don't believe that 80-year-old people would stand up now and create revolutions. That is something that I would more expect from young people. So in that sense, the brainwashing with the AI, etc., will not be so strong if we have great education, if we have culture, if we have books that are read, if we are conscious and aware of what we do for the world in which we live in. I think in that case there wouldn't be any wars, but unfortunately we don't live in such world. Alenka, you wanted to say something?
Gonna be short. It's working, right? I thought when I read the title of this panel, because we have it tomorrow, that I'm not going to be able to speak much about it. But now, hearing all of you, it's quite a challenging topic, and I think we're going to have a great discussion tomorrow too. But I want to say something about the question that Hannah and Elena rose. Why would someone in their right mind do something like this? I think it's not a question of mind. I think the answer is pretty profane, and that's it's profit, I think. So I'm afraid we're not going to have a choice, you know. No one's going to ask, do you want this? Like, why does Amazon publish novels from artificial intelligence? Because it doesn't want any fees. You know, it's for them, it's a win-win situation. I think that's it's really a waste of time to think, is it going to be a moral? It's a morality of artificial intelligence is like a paradox, I think. Like we would speak of morality of a hammer or a bucket of water. It can be a tool, of course, but is it moral to nail the nail with a hammer? Of course. But is it moral to kill someone with it? No, but you know, the profit still runs the world, and I'm afraid that's why I'm so afraid of this.
Thank you.
Trade, any new technology that has come in will grow. We cannot stop it. Any new technology that comes in brings in a lot of doubts, and that remains till the time we have the clearer picture. Back in 2008, if people remember, the publishing industry thought that we are basically, there's an apocalypse. There will be no printed books, right? We thought that ebooks will take over and the technology the interactive books will take over, people will not touch paper. And I think we are running through the same sentiments again, but this time it's a bit different. This time it's a bit different because it is more easier than the earlier one. So the only thing which the thing which I think about when it comes to artificial intelligence, and my trade, I don't care about the world, right? We are pretty safe in our trade because 99% of this trade is human driven, right? It's someone who is working in technology, someone who is working in the customer care center, they are high at risk. So we will get the challenges of getting these content ready-made, cropping up again and again, and there will be profiteers in between who will come in and basically do fast sales. But I think the course correction will be there. The biggest thing that as an industry, as a publishing industry, we should start talking out loudly that how do we regulate it, right? Where do we draw the line? We cannot draw the line saying we will not use AI in publishing. That's highly impossible, improbable. Let's not even talk about that a lot. Just talk about how do we regulate in the creative process. In the creative process, what should be done? Should we let AI edit it or not edit it, right? So that is where I'll leave, and maybe we can talk about it after the session.
Ви благодарам многу.
Thank you so much.
Лена, Лидија, Хана, ви благодарам за учество.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. I would like to also thank the audience for attending this event tonight, and especially to everyone who contributed with their questions. And there it goes. You see, the point of this panel was to give or try to give answers to, maybe not to answer the questions, but more like discuss and open up additional sub-questions that would come out of the talk. And that's it. Looking forward to some future.
My fellow writers, and of course, two distinguished gentlemen sitting on my right, will the time come when artificial intelligence will be able to write a novel based on my personal life, on the history of my experiences, of everything that I went through in my 80 years of life, from when I was small and then bigger and greater, all the mistakes I made, all the thoughts I created, and so on. Not by picking appropriate things from everything that's available digitally now, but something that is based on my own personal experience. When this will be possible, then
about 40 years or 50 years from now. Is it as good as what we feed in? So if I put electrodes on your head and maybe try to suck all the memories you have for 80, 90 years, it's quite possible. And I think we are not far. We are, as humans, we will test our abilities. We will somehow figure out a way to reach there, because we cannot be satisfied. We live in the world where we need instant gratification, whether it's from the first fruit, the apple, we have to break it and eat it. So we will reach some way or the other.
so you will have to hurry up with those electrodes, because you don't know, I don't know how much longer I'm going to live, you see.
I think there's one thing, that brain is worth well preserving. We need to move fast. No.
You keep brains in jars, it's great.
Oh, yes. I think it's fascinating what has grown in the last 30, 40, 50 years. And every time these new gadgets come in, and I just love them. No, I mean, hey, man, I take a picture, I'm just taking pictures.
Oh, that's why you are wearing glasses.
You don't actually need them. He can see your net worth right there. Yeah, I know.
Not yet. It's coming by the end of this month.